Luke, I'm sorry for not following the COVID rules regarding social distancing. I realise that I have put the podcast in jeopardy.
I don't ever want to see it again! Ever! And if you don't do it, you're fired. If I see you do it again, you're gone. And anyone on this crew does it. That's it! And you too! And you too! And you! Don't you ever do it again! That's it!
I'm sorry.
No apologies. You can tell it to the people that are losing their home because our industry is shut down. It's not going to put food on their table or pay for their college education. That's what I sleep with every night.
Oh, that told me.
The future of this fucking industry, Michael.
Yeah, I mean,
and you fucking blew it. How many people are relying on us to make sure that they can put food on their table? And you... Yeah, I just can't... I can't deal with you sometimes, man. I can't.
I am sorry that immediately before we started recording, I did cough into your open mouth. I didn't think it would be this much of an issue.
You motherfucker.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael. By my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the 30-year anniversary of the release of Home by Itself, also known as Home Alone. Luke, wait and tell us a thing or two about Home Alone.
Sure thing, Michael, and yes, this is the 30-year anniversary of Home Alone, one of the most classic Christmas films ever. And now, can you believe it? 30 years, Michael. 30 years. It is a classic now. I don't know when things become a classic, maybe after like 20 years, but this is definitely a classic now, for sure. So yeah, let's get into it. Home Alone is a 1990 American Christmas family comedy film written and produced by John Hughes and directed by Chris Columbus. It stars Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, John Hurd, and Catherine O'Hara. The film was released on November the 16th, 1990 in the United States. So yeah, just over 30 years ago, around Christmas. And Michael, can you guess the budget for Home Alone, please?
Can't be that much, right? Because it's, $10 million.
You know what? That's funny. Do you want to know why it's funny?
Because it's exactly correct and couldn't be less correct.
Because Warner Brothers initially wanted to make it for around that, but
it ballooned.
It ballooned to $18 million. And do you remember the studio that distributed this movie, Michael?
No.
Right at the start of the movie? Two very big numbers, a 2 and a 0.
Oh, 20th Century Fox.
Yes, 20th Century Fox distributed this movie, even though, of course, Warner Brothers, as I just mentioned, were the ones that picked it up initially, which we'll get into in a little bit. And of course, well, let's guess the budget, Michael. You have guessed the budget. It was 18 million, not 10 million. So now guess the box office. And after you guess, you can, judge whether Warner Brothers made a mistake not handing out a bit more cash to pay for the production of this movie.
Well, I'm going to guess it was nothing. No, I mean, I can't see this film making huge amounts of money, but I guess maybe, let's say it made 3 times its money back. So that would be, I think, 54 million.
You're such a retard. I give you all the help you need by saying...
Yeah, 3 times its money back.
It's going to make... I can't believe
happy
this.
If I had an investment of 18 million and I made 3 times my money back, I would be very happy.
But I specifically mentioned how Warner Brothers, or implied that Warner Brothers would be kicking themselves. Yeah. Do you really think they would be kicking themselves if it only made 3 times its money back? Do you really think that?
I would be.
Use your brain for once in your goddamn life.
Sorry. I feel like you're still angry about the whole COVID rules
Yeah, I am.
thing.
That is carrying over, but still... I still have every right to be angry about that pathetic excuse of a guess. 54 million for one of the biggest movies of all time in terms of the Christmas genre.
I don't know. I just felt like, people wouldn't want to go to see this film because it would be too cold. Can't argue that. Too cold to leave their house. So I thought,
have another guess.
160 million.
Fuck you. Just get the fuck out of here, man. 477 million.
That's a lot of money.
For almost $500 million.
That's like blockbuster money.
Because it is a fucking blockbuster.
It's not like Iron Man though, Luke. It's just a story
It's
about...
the Iron Man of his day.
It's just a story about a little kid who gets left alone at Christmas. I mean, I don't
Genuinely,
know.
think about how important this movie is to the culture. Okay, Michael, to the culture. I mean, the culture of Christmas movies. I don't know if there's a long and storied past of that, to be honest, but this certainly is a very important Christmas movie. Okay.
Well, I want to know how much money how much did It's a Wonderful Life make at the box office?
Well, the funny thing about It's a Wonderful Life is it actually wasn't that big a hit at a time. There was just no rights for it, so I believe it was NBC just kept playing it over and over again at Christmas because they could do it for free. So eventually it became a Christmas classic. So it's a completely different scenario to Home Alone.
I thought that's what happened with this film. I was getting my wires crossed. I apologise.
Yeah, no, I don't buy that excuse. Right, well, we've started off on a really sad note for two reasons. It appears my co-host may be clinically stupid. I'm not going to use the R word again because we only get one.
Yeah, those are the rules.
More than one, and it's offensive. So yeah, 477 million at the box office. And you're right, by the way, it is an incredible amount of money. It held the record for the highest grossing live-action comedy ever until it was overtaken by what movie, Michael, in 2011?
2011?
Oh, actually, you might not get... Well, the movie... Okay, just name the movie franchise which this movie...
Hangover.
Yes, The Hangover. Hangover Part 2, actually.
I've redeemed myself.
Hangover Part 2 grossed more than Hangover Part 1, which is funny. But yeah, so it got 2 Academy Awards nominations for Best Original Score and Best Original Song for Somewhere in My Memory. Home Alone spawned a successful film franchise that started with the 1992 sequel Home Alone: Lost in New York, which is the only Home Alone sequel to have most of the original cast reprising their roles. Yes, I've seen, I think, is it Home Alone 4?
Yeah, Home Alone 4 is the infamously bad one.
Yeah, we should do that one day. Michael, Home Alone, the first one, did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I mean, you've been hyping it up a lot, Luke. So,
I don't think I've been hyping it up a lot in terms of...
Well, you've just been hyping up its success. No, yeah.
Just its success, which, again, I gave you a leg up, and then I give you another guess, and you still got nowhere near it.
Well, it's because it was too much money, Luke. I mean, it made a lot of money, but, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, Luke, that it's a very good film. As you have repeatedly said, it's a very good film, and I agree with you, Luke.
It is a very good film for a film concerning Christmas and a film concerning an 8-year-old boy who's home alone. I think it's probably the best out of the various movies that fit in that genre. So yeah, Home Alone, Michael. I thought it was good as well. Good, and of course you have to respect, the originality and how classic it is, and the moments that we have loved throughout the years. But let's get into the nitpicks, Michael. How many have you got?
Well, I've got a handsome total of 4.
I've got 1 and 3 lit picks.
Whoa! Okay.
Yeah. So you go first.
Yeah, I guess I will go first. So 1.
By the way, I think in the future we should limit you to 4 nitpicks.
Good idea.
I've decided.
Yeah, you're right. 1. A kid obviously wouldn't answer the door if they were home alone, so it's stupid of the cop to conclude that nobody's there just because he didn't answer the door. But you could just say it's because the policeman is stupid because it's a comedy. And I'll throw in my other one that could come down to him being stupid.
You didn't need to add because it's a comedy.
Could just walk to the... I get it, because cops are stupid. He could have just walked to the house of another person. Once he realised these people were going to try and break into his house, you'd think he could have just gone to... he literally walks past some people's houses who are hanging out as their family. And you think, if he really thinks that these people are going to break into his house, you think he'd walk up and go, "Excuse me, some men are trying to break into my house because I'm home alone." But again, you could just put that down to he's scared. But these two I'm much more confident in. 1, how did he book... how did he book pizza without a phone? Because they established the phone lines have gone down. Now, the fact the phone lines have gone down is something I can get into at a later point, but I don't know how he would have booked pizza without a phone. And then 2, they say, we should come back at 9, it'll be dark then, which is a weird turn of phrase when at wintertime it gets dark at 4 p.m. So it's kind of well, yeah, but it'll be dark hours before then too. So it's just a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that?
Yeah, no, okay. Is that it?
Yep.
All right. You know what? I'm actually going to check what time sunset is in Chicago.
Yeah, because I'm aware Chicago is further south than us. Obviously, it's colder because they're not as maritime, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the phrase. Its sunset is at 4:20, and
Whoa,
it won't change much from now until Christmas Day. So yeah, you are correct, Michael. They could have come back at 5 and it was okay. But yeah, they wanted to get a bite to eat though. They wanted to fill up. Because hey, you gotta make sure you've energized before you rob a house with an 8-year-old kid in it. That's for sure. So my first nitpick: the dad, Kevin's dad, does not care about him. His mum obviously does quite a bit, and you could argue there's some sexist tropes in there about the mum actually cares and the dad doesn't, but the dad just really doesn't care, it seems. He's just kind of fine with it while the mum's sweating. Next nitpick. Oh no, sorry. That's it. That's my only nitpick. Now we're on to the lit picks. The Michael Jordan poster. That has aged so well, Michael, because this is a classic movie, and this, of course, movie was released in 1990. Michael Jordan played for the Chicago Bulls, but he had not yet won a title. He had not yet won a title, and he won 3 back-to-back in 91, 92, and 93, then 97 to 98, and he became possibly the greatest player of all time and one of the greatest athletes of all time. And, to have that poster in that movie and have him play a part also later on in the movie is just absolutely fantastic. Foresight from John Hughes or whoever put it in, because it's this, back then he wasn't known as the greatest player of all time, but now he is, until maybe LeBron James surpasses him. But for now, I think he is. And yeah, it's just an absolutely fantastic call to have him in there.
It's not a poster, it's a cutout, Luke.
Yeah.
You said poster, you idiot.
Yeah, sorry, I meant cutout, my bad. Cutout,
you fucking...
and also, this movie, Home Alone, had like I said, a place in the culture of Christmas movies. And Michael Jordan, then, he dominated the culture in the 90s as well, and both right at the start of the decade as well. So yeah, it's just wonderful to see, Michael. I love it. Don't you love it? Tell me you're enthusiastic about this as well.
I love Michael Jordan. He's classic. Let's review Space Jam now.
We are actually next year because Space Jam 2 is being released, so that is actually going to happen. Security on airplanes pre 9/11. They just roll up to the boarding gates. Like, there's just tears in my eyes, Michael, of what could have been.
Because all those terrorists actually wanted to commit.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That they beat you to it.
No, I can't do it. What if those kids had guns? They got. Oh god. Damn it, Osama. That's the thing. It's like you watch movies from, 20, 30 years ago, and you see them just rolling up to airplanes like it's nothing and getting on the flight. And this was the biggest example of that because, of course, there's like 20 of them, and they can all just get on the plane easily. Okay, and last lit pick. This is kind of just a nostalgia thing, I guess. Address books, Michael. Do you remember address books?
Yeah, I remember address books.
Take me back.
We've still got one on our telephone table.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
It hasn't been taken out.
Take me back to Christmas get-togethers as well. That's nostalgic now. They're all having a good time, all eating food. Christmas
war
Eve.
on Christmas.
It's all over. Yeah, because of the war on Christmas. Now Donald Trump's gone. It's over. No, but with COVID, it's just like, damn it. Like, one thing you could always rely on, even though things just get worse and worse in our world, is at least Christmas is still there. And this year it's not. And things can only get worse, never better. So I guess my lit pick is just non-COVID times in that regard. But I also have respect for the address book because wasn't that great when you just had books lying around that had people's addresses in. Just I don't. Why am I nostalgic about that? I don't know.
Maybe it's because it's Christmas time and it's kind of a time when it's like a time of good cheer, so you're kind of always happy about it. I mean, I get nostalgic with these films because it's Christmas, it's happy, and we all love Christmas films. So yeah, I agree with you, and I guess it's good that you had 3 lit picks because obviously Christmas just put you in a good mood.
Yeah, it does. It does. It has to. So onto the plot. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows it. The film follows Kevin, played by Macaulay Culkin, not Joe Pesci, an 8-year-old boy who must defend his home from 2 burglars, Harry and Marv, Pesci and Sturt, after his family accidentally leaves him behind on their vacation. It was filmed through February and May 1990 in a variety of locations throughout Illinois. They were true to their set. I remember we reviewed some Halloween movies recently, which were meant to be set in the Midwest, but clear they were actually filmed in California. So yeah, this one, I mean, I guess they had to film the snow, so it couldn't be filmed in California. Let's get into the plot, Michael. Let's talk about the concept first. Obviously, it's a very inventive and fun concept. I will say that right off the bat. A kid being left alone, having to stave off a couple of burglars. What do you think?
Yes, yeah, no, yeah, I do. I mean, obviously, it's in the title. It's Home Alone, and it's about like we all know about being home alone. It's taking that concept of just being left home by your parents, being like, what if you were left home for a very long amount of time? What if? And that's kind of the fun thing about it. Like the idea of having just a child be in charge of the house is already a nice concept to kind of start with, and then obviously adding on the and then some burglars are trying to break in is, that's the icing on the cherry bakewell. And then the cherry on the cherry bakewell is that it's Christmas. So it's like 3 layers of, oh, that's kind of nice. And it comes together to form, a lovely cherry bakewell.
Absolutely, Michael. Absolutely. So I'll just take this from Wikipedia about the conception of Home Alone. It arose from a personal experience of its writer, John Hughes. Hughes explained that, I was going away on vacation and making a list of everything I didn't want to forget. I thought, well, I'd better not forget my kids. Then I thought, what if I left my 10-year-old son at home? What would he do? Hughes then wrote 8 pages of notes that developed into the screenplay of the film. Imagining that children are naturally most scared of robbers, Hughes also worked that aspect into the plot of the film. So yeah, I mean, it's just the easiest fucking job, wasn't it, being a screenwriter back in the day? Just, what if I left my kids? Let's make a $500 million movie out of that. Great. Now, I mean, that's the thing, it's such a simple concept, but it's fun as well. And you add in the burglars, and it can get quite, like I said, inventive. And I think, although it is, very, very simple, it's effective. Home Alone was initially set to be financed and distributed by Warner Brothers. This is what I was referring to earlier, Michael, if you'll remember. And Hughes promised the studio that he could make the movie for no more than $10 million, considerably less than most feature film production budgets of that era. Concerned that the film might exceed that amount, even minimally, and that Warner would insist on keeping to it, Hughes met secretly with 20th Century Fox before production to see if they would be interested in funding the project if Warner proved as inflexible as the producer feared. That's a smart guy, is John Hughes. According to executive producer Scott Rosenfeld, a copy of the script was clandestinely, that's correct, yes, delivered to Fox, bypassing the legal restrictions that would have otherwise prevented Fox from seeing it until the project was in turnaround. Early in production, the film's budget grew to $14.7 million. That's, if you're keeping score, Michael, about $5 million more than the initial $10 million.
Wow.
Well past the limit Warner had imposed. Yeah, we're talking like 33% increase. The studio demanded that it be cut by $1.2 million. The producers responded with a memo arguing the budget could not be cut any further. Warner shut down production the next day, but it quickly resumed when Fox took up Hughes on his earlier offer. And the budget, of course, initially was 14.7, and then ballooned to 18 million, almost twice what Warner Brothers wanted. But of course, at the end of the day, the movie grossed 500 million. So yeah, Warner Brothers then, not good, Michael, not good at all. What a massive mistake right there. Such a small budget as well, and they must be kicking themselves even to this day, Michael. What do you think?
No, yeah, it's like genuinely just so terrible of them that they would have. I mean, you can kind of... It just shows how studio executives are stupid, because it should have been obvious that this film would do reasonably well. Because as we both already pointed out, the concept is interesting, and the fact it's in Christmas just adds an extra level of security. And yeah, they should have had more faith in it. Although I guess maybe you could argue that whoever was in charge of the film just needed to be better at budgeting. I mean, I felt like I could film a kid in his house for less than $10 million.
Yeah, so, but you need those
Joe
shots.
Pesci.
You need those shots of the aeroplane,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And they needed to buy the first class seats in order to get the shot of that. So that was a business expense. They needed to all go on holiday to Paris.
Yeah,
business expense.
Yeah, and let's not forget this family. Is rich as fuck. Basically, I mean, the house is. I don't know why fuck is like a comparative word. That's just what came to mind. They're a very rich family. I mean, you look at their house. It's incredibly nice, isn't it, Michael? They get first class tickets to Paris.
Yeah.
With a hotel overlooking the Eiffel Tower. I mean, this family is not your ordinary family, including, the fact that they've got, at least 5 kids. I mean, do you remember what I said was the whitest movie of all time? It was Stuart Little.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're pretty rich, too.
Is there a non-white person who speaks in this movie? And yes, there is. There's that woman who lets them all go on the plane.
Oh, that's good.
Black lady, remember? Yeah, I think that's the only one. But yeah, so basically, this movie is, it's very white. It's like your typical suburban white family who've got a lot of money, who can afford to go to these, wild places. So yeah, of course, if you're doing that kind of movie, I say wild places, but I guess for Paris that would be wild for Americans.
No, yeah. It does make me think about something I noticed in a lot of American comedies, and 2 other American Christmas comedies I can think of, is it's a trope, I'm observing it now. It's people being casually rich. And what I mean by that is like the people in a lot of Christmas films in America, I mean in the UK I don't think we have as many Christmas films, but are very rich in a way where it kind of feels like the film almost doesn't want you to notice how rich they are, but they obviously are. And the 2 examples I can think of apart from this are Daddy's Home 2. Of course, they just very easily are able to go to this incredibly expensive, nice-looking B&B, Airbnb. Remember that lovely place they end up being in Daddy's Home 2? And the other one is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, where, of course, the big concern is a massive salesman, but might not get his bonus for $100,000. And he's like, oh man, I'm not going to get it. How am I going to buy presents for my family? And that's what I'm talking about. Just this idea that these people are very, very rich just for fun. Because I guess, I don't know, it's not as good when poor people are around at Christmas. They kind of ruin the mood.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they don't need to have any issues with money.
Yeah.
Just so... I mean, there have been Christmas movies which, the money
Christmas
is an
Carol.
issue. Yeah, of course. Pretty famous one. But yeah, there is this genre where it's just like, oh, these, suburban families have massive houses and it's like, it's treated as standard, which of course isn't. I don't think it is standard. I don't think it is.
And of course, there's lots of non-Christmas comedies, like everything Adam Sandler has done recently. And just like, just live in a mansion, just your average mansion family.
Yes. So let's get into it now. Or the plot, I should say. So first off, I was really surprised how all the kids are so mean to Kevin. All of the grown-ups are not sympathetic to Kevin either. Like he's treated completely horribly. And initially I was like, wow, this is quite harsh. But then later on, maybe with Kevin's actions, it kind of makes a bit more sense, but we'll get into that later. I do like how it's clever how Kevin gets left alone in the house when the older sister pats one of the neighbours' kids on the head. I was thinking, how are they going to get around this? And to be fair, that was quite an inventive way. I will say that.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I do think, like, obviously, I did mention up front, and everyone's mentioned it, that it is the series of events that happen are, I don't know what the opposite to serendipitous is, but whatever the opposite is, it's that. Like the fact that the alarms happen to not go off and that no one gets up before the alarms. And then obviously, that's the big thing. But I guess the flip side is that even when something is, I guess, convenient for the plot, it still, a lot of the time, can be inventive. So they had to actually come up with, well, why is it that all these things go wrong? And even if it's, unlikely that all those things would go wrong, they actually had to go to the effort of being like, oh, maybe a guy shows up and that's why they count the wrong thing. Although it's kind of like a double thing, because the other guys, I don't remember any of the names, but the big brother guy is like 92, 73 as she's counting. So,
Yeah, no, that's the thing. You have to, the whole point of this movie is to get Macaulay Culkin in a very weird situation. So you have to do some crazy things to mean that the parents forget him. So, it's a coincidence this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it is, but, that's what has to happen to engineer the situation. So I'm okay with that, really. And of course it's a comedy for kids as well, that's important. Okay, and so we get to the stage where, of course, Kevin is home alone. He wished that his family was gone, and then his family did go, and then his mum realises on the plane that they've forgotten Kevin. Remember that, Michael? When she shouts Kevin?
Kevin! Yes.
There we go. That's a good impression. I have an issue, though, because I think it could have been done better. Because, his mum shouts Kevin on the airplane. It is a good moment. I won't deny that. It is good, but why would she think that Kevin is not accounted for? Since she hasn't seen all of the kids, obviously they're all in normal class while all the parents are in first class.
And
the girl, by the way, I was expecting like a shot of the kids like messing around, in normal class, whatever it's called, economy class.
And then there'd be some guy there reading his paper like, oh, bloody children.
They're saying, oh, how? Oh, the kids will be fine flying, and then it cuts that. Didn't happen. And so the girl, of course, counted all of them up right at the start. She was like, okay, there's 11 people. So, why would she assume that Kevin wasn't accounted for? I don't understand. By the way, we never see a shot of that girl again, like having to reckon that she didn't count Kevin. So I do wonder what happened there. Or maybe that was a scene that was caught. I'm not sure. But I think the scene should happen probably when she's in the hotel, in the foyer, watching all the kids, and then she's looking at them, and she's having the same conversation with her husband that she had on the plane. Like, don't you think you've just forgotten something? And they're going over like the garage door, or the car hold, I should say. And and then basically the conversation ends, and then she just randomly screams Kevin, because it doesn't make sense, Michael, why she would assume that Kevin wasn't accounted for. She doesn't even go back in the back of the plane to check, does she? I mean, we never see that scene, do we? Like, to check. That's surely what she did.
Yeah. It is actually very strange that she never like confirms. In fact, basically, it's kind of weird how. I mean, I guess you could just say, "Oh, you just know," but it's kind of weird how she's just immediately not like, because it's like when you think you've lost your keys, or like your phone or something, or your wallet or whatever. You like pat yourself, and you're like, oh, because just because you think you've lost it, you pat yourself for it. So that's what she should have done. She should have gone, hey. Kevin is Kevin here, and then gone to look for him rather than. But I guess
I think the moment of her screaming Kevin is good, but she should be looking at all of the kids.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Well, that's what I just said before. If you were paying attention.
Sorry, I was paying attention, but also I don't know. I was coming up with my own ideas as you were speaking.
Your own worst ideas.
I was building off of you, and I was thinking, what if we did that? But she was, she had the idea first. But no, I guess it, and in fact. I don't know, like, I guess the issue is, and this is the thing, is kind of like, the longer it's left, the worse they look as parents. So, actually...
I mean, not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, because if it's the first chance they've had to count up all the kids, maybe it can be not in the hotel foyer, but in the airport, when they're preparing to get into taxis. What
they could do, actually... is you mentioned how so this is actually an example of my ideas are building on yours, Luke, because I was saying how you think you'd have a scene of the kids messing around with like the guy reading the newspaper upset and all that stuff. It could be that the kids are messing around and somebody says, excuse me, your kids are messing around, can you go tell them off? Or maybe she just kind of overhears it and she's like, oh, I better go check. So she's like blah blah blah, being angry, and then she kind of like stops and stares at them, and then they're like, oh, why is she staring at us? And she just goes, Kevin! And she realizes Kevin's gone, and like that's, and because then you incorporate both the elements.
She'd have to be telling all the kids what to do and where to go. Like, what one of the kids is called Buzz, the fat ginger one. Buzz, you sit down over there. I don't know. Emily, you go over there. And she's let all the kids, and she's like,
and it's just like, and she realizes that there's one person she hasn't mentioned. It's like Kevin, and she assumes Kevin has gone to the cockpit and hijacked it because they had such lax security.
And you could have that conversation with her husband on the plane just beforehand. Yeah, and then she could then, the kids are messing around, and then the plane stewardess could be like, hey, your kids are messing around. Come on, could you help? And then she could. There we go. I think that's better, Michael. I think that is better. Well done. We nailed it. We got there in the end, and it only took us 5 minutes.
This is our pitch for why we should be screenwriters.
No, I mean, I think it's better. I mean, it makes more sense. I think it'd be. But again, the delivery when she goes Kevin is like perfect.
Yeah, so. that's important. Yeah, you do need to keep that. That is
absolutely. So okay, there's that section of the movie which I think could have been done better. Then there's another section of the movie I think could have been done better as well. And this is crucial because there's this crucial point in the movie where Kevin understands what he has to do to protect his house from Harry and Marv, and it's just, I was really frustrated how they just, of course they've got time to do it, they just didn't do this as well as it could have. So I'll take you through it. Kevin sees Harry and Marv and realises that they're burglars, of course, when they nearly hit him with their van, even though he didn't see them when they tried to break into his house last night. I believe that's the case. He didn't see them. He saw their silhouettes, he didn't actually see them. So he recognises that Harry is the cop from beforehand, but why does he assume that he is not a cop and is a burglar?
Because Black Lives Matter, Luke. He knew he was up to no good. He wasn't thinking that he was a burglar. He was just thinking, oh no, it's a cop. You know what they're like.
Okay,
so he just assumed.
That's just, you trying to be funny and it really failed there, I have to say.
Luke, it's that you don't find funny things funny, as we all know. I mean, if we go back to the film we've already mentioned, you didn't find Daddy's Home 2 funny, so I think we all know who here has a good idea of what's funny.
I think that enhances my claim, really. But so he recognises that, he isn't a cop, even though I don't know why he would. It could just be, he's doing this on his day off. That's a reasonable assumption to make. But anyway, what should have happened is Kevin should have looked out a window when Harry and Marv pulled up to his house, and he should have seen the Dodge. So he knows the Dodge van. So when it almost hits him, he recognises the van. Then when Harry says Merry Christmas, along with Kevin seeing the tooth, Kevin should also notice the crowbar. He has a crowbar next to him, for instance, and then piece together who they are from that, because he show a flashback to the crowbar when he sees the crowbar silhouette. And then, flashback to the van, and then he stares at Harry, and he gets it. Because he doesn't, there's no reason for him to piece together that those are the burglars. He recognises the cop, but that's it. It's just, there's no connection, and that frustrates me because it would have been quite easy to make that connection. But that's not all. Then when he gets back to the house, he should remember Marv saying outside the house, I thought you said nobody was home, when the light flicks on. Then Kevin should say to himself, I got to make them think I'm not home alone. That way Kevin understands who Marv and Harry are. He would not have otherwise. And then he understands why he needs to do the fake party thing, where you have the Michael Jordan cutout. And where does he get all these cut out, mannequins from as well? Actually, that should be
I'm confused. Actually, you know what? That's a good point.
I was expecting that to be explained later on when I saw it. It's like, that'll be...
Yeah.
But it's not explained where these mannequins come from. That's actually a nitpick. But that's the thing. He does not hear Marv saying, I thought you said nobody was home, because I believe he runs upstairs to hide under his bed. So therefore, there's no real reason to do what he does with pretending that there's a party. I guess it's just like knowledge or common sense, I guess. But you gotta give me. It would be so easy to make that just that little bit better, just that little bit cleaner, I guess. I just hate when just the films do stuff which doesn't. Characters assume stuff which, okay, it's correct, but you didn't put in the work to get there, and the work would have been quite easy. Do you get what I mean, Michael?
No, yeah, I agree. It's kind of, I guess it's a case of, it's always the issue when we know something and the characters seem to just know that thing because we know it. And it's like, well, it's not enough. It's not just that the film has to communicate it to us. The film has to communicate the information to the characters in such a way we can believe the characters would reasonably make those conclusions. And
this film, unfortunately, does not do that in that case. And as well with the mum on the plane, doesn't really do that either. So the last 20 minutes of the movie, it's only the last 20 minutes when he's actually doing all the hijinks.
That is kind of interesting.
Yeah. That's what the movie's famous for, obviously. And it's like you have to wait until 1 hour, 15 minutes in until you get to that point.
Well, to be fair, it would be a bit like, I feel like, how long can they make it last for? That's because I will admit, I kind of got the sense of this film. It's definitely one of those films where you think it kind of, the initial idea was probably quite a small film, and then they had to think, well, what else can we add to make it longer? Like, that's kind of what I felt like with this film, which isn't to say the film feels like there's unnecessary stuff in there, because to be honest, if we've said anything, it's that it could have had more stuff in there. But you definitely get the impression of this film that it was like, like a lot of the stuff was added, because I'm like, how can we make this slightly, have slightly more going on? So, because initially they probably just had the idea of, what if a kid's trying to, kill a bunch of people in his house?
So, let's talk about these wonderful inventive hijinks then. Because you have to praise the idea, of course. It's, like I said, it's creative, and also the execution. It's fun, right? We can all say that. It's fun. When Marv and Harry get hit on the head, and they trip over stuff, when they're slipping, it's fun for the whole family. It really is. And, all age ranges. The parents enjoy it because, I don't know really why, I guess...
it reminds me of watching Tom and Jerry back when they were kids.
Yeah, exactly. The kids enjoy it because it's, silly violence. And even the teenagers enjoy it because,
because Danny DeVito's hot.
Danny DeVito.
Yeah. Sorry, Danny DeVito. What's his name? Oh, I'm blanking on what his name is.
I'm not going to help you.
What is it? It's Joe Pesci.
There we go. We got that.
Yeah, I'm so good at this.
Because Joe Pesci's hot, yeah. And he is actually, because he gets his hair blown off. Or burnt off, really, I should say.
Yeah, it is actually funny. It's Joe Pesci. Like, I think I like it. I think almost
he had a great year, didn't he? This and Goodfellas. Wow.
Yeah, it adds something to it when you know that Joe Pesci has played some pretty horrible, violent gangsters in the past.
Oh no, it does.
So it's kind of like when you're watching it as an adult, you're like, it's
in
Joe
the past,
Pesci.
literally 2 months ago. Goodfellas came out, I think, in September 1990. Yeah. This comes out in November 1990. I mean, God, what a contrast. Joe Pesci's in it, and he is very hot. But here's the issue, of course. And do you want to praise the hijinks, Michael, a bit before I talk about some issues?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll praise the hijinks. I think they are just. I am remembering how we compared Nightmare on Elm Street to Home Alone because of all the hijinks Freddy Krueger got into. But no, basically it's fun. Like it is, and it's kind of. like, obviously kids like playing war. We all know that. You know, if you're a kid, you like to get your fake gun. You like to try and make a bow and arrow out of a twig that you found in the garden. You like to, you know, murder small animals.
I mean,
and kind of
speak
open
for
them up
yourself
and
here.
fiddle
Well,
around with their
definitely
insides.
speak for yourself with the last bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
so, you know, children
yeah.
like violence. So it's
Chil-
kind of
children.
you always imagine to yourself, children, young
all
adults,
children, not
adults.
just the ones that you,
Yeah, all of them. Yes.
not just you. Yeah, all.
Anyway, so basically,
Children just don't play FIFA.
Yeah, exactly.
In their room and watch football. You know,
No,
they go out and kill small animals.
Exactly,
as
yeah.
you do.
And then eventually they graduate to hunting the most dangerous game of them all, man. Which is what this guy does. So he's kind of an early bloomer. But no, yeah, it's kind of that idea of. I guess the other analogy I think would be like the box fort is another example of how kids like to kind of play war. And I think that idea of like turning a house into a fortress and being like, how am I going to defend it? I think it's just a fun idea to, you know, to kind of makes you think, yeah, if I was a kid. And obviously the thing is, it's totally impractical. Like in reality, you wouldn't come up with these plans. But it's the kind of thing that
Oh,
people,
really?
It's like in, I don't know, in shows, people are always building their own tree houses in like TV and films. And I've never known anyone to do that in real life, and maybe it's because in the UK we don't have such big gardens because we don't have much space, but it seems like the kind of thing people do in films and TV much more than they'd ever do it in real life.
It's very unnecessary as well, a treehouse.
Yeah.
That's what I've always said. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you need a treehouse? Why can't you
I've
just
already got one house.
stay in your own room?
Yeah, you know, we have more houses than people.
Yeah, I never understand it. But yeah, so okay, that's we praise the hijinks, and as you say, it's nice. Yeah, he's acting like this is his fortress, and that's a good analogy, Michael. I do like that. But here's the problem: he's not against another kid, is he? He's against two criminals, and Harry and Marv, they don't have guns, and I would think, you know, it's not hard to get a gun in America.
Whoa.
Criminals would have guns, right? That's the minimum you'd expect from criminals. They would
Yeah.
have guns, and you know, I'm sure they didn't want to threaten a kid with a gun, but you know, they're pretty pissed off like halfway through the shenanigans going
Should
on.
have set this film in the UK with Jason Statham. A modern British version of this film with like Jason Statham and I don't know, Daniel Craig. So, like I just think about
Craig.
like two people who are violent, and that's the first things I could think of.
Yeah, fucking Jason Statham. Oh, that
It makes
so
you
that'd be
think about,
that'd be funny. Yeah, so they. I mean, I know it's a kids' movie, but they don't look where they're going either. They just step on shit, which is quite obvious. And you know, they also have a chance to rob the house after he lands
that's
to
the
the
famous
treehouse.
one, yeah.
Because that's what I thought they were going to do. I thought they were going to be like, look, we're just here to rob the place. He's gone to the treehouse. We're not going to follow him. All we're going to do is now we're going to rob the place. That's all we need to do. And then we'll piss off. But they didn't. They tried to chase him down, which I thought was...
Yeah, I think it's because they were so blinded by rage that to them, they became the children and he became the small animal.
I guess
so. They were
so.
all about hunting him down at that point.
Yeah, but it's just like they have a chance to like stop and gather their bearings. And it's not like they're chasing him down the zip line. It's like he's on the other side. So, yeah.
I guess maybe it's because they're worried that at that point he possibly could go somewhere relatively quickly and call the cops.
Surely he could do that anyway. Like, you know.
Yeah, he could
Well, that's the thing. What are these guys thinking when they're getting tortured? Like, why don't you just fucking call the police? Which we'll get onto later. But yeah,
I was thinking that.
Yeah, clever from Kevin to go into the neighbour's house, so they would get busted for robbing that place too, which they of course did several nights ago. And you talked about, Michael, how before the hijinks, the booby traps and so on were unrealistic. And do you know who agrees with you?
Martin Scorsese.
Roger Ebert. Martin Scorsese said this movie was like a theme park. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Roger Ebert of Godzilla fame.
Yeah, Roger Ebert of the Chicago of Godzilla fame. Why Godzilla?
Because do you remember when we reviewed Godzilla in 1998? There was Mayor Ebert as a as a parody.
I mean, that is such an obscure thing. Considering
that was weird.
before. That's just ridiculous. But anyway, Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. What did he give the film out of 4, Michael? Have a guess.
Did he give it like not much? Let's go for 2.5.
Exactly right.
Hey.
Yep, 2.5 out of 4, and 2 thumbs down. He compared I don't know what the point is of the thumbs down where you're giving a rating, but anyway.
Yeah, it is a bit weird.
He compared the elaborate booby trap in the film to Rube Goldberg machines, writing, "They're the kind of traps that any 8-year-old could devise if he had a budget of tens of thousands of dollars and the assistance of a crew of movie special effects people." Wow. And criticised the plot as, quote, "so implausible that it makes it hard for Kevin makes it hard for Roger Ebert to really care about the plight of the kid, Kevin. So Roger Ebert is not happy. He's taken all the fun out of it, and of course it's unrealistic. This is kind of like a criticism I'd usually label. I sometimes think I'm a bit too like, oh, that's unrealistic, that couldn't have happened, blah blah blah. I understand this is like a kids movie, and Ebert's like, no, he needs a budget of tens of thousands of dollars. Of course that's the case, and we
actually, this guy would not like Saw, because of all the traps Jigsaw sets up. You're like, actually, I don't believe a serial killer could come up with all
but
this
that's
stuff.
the thing. Jigsaw is actually a human,
or
an adult.
Human. Luke, so you need to stop revealing that. I know you're pro-choice, but you need to stop thinking that children aren't humans.
Yeah. So he's an adult, Jigsaw. Kevin McAllister is not an adult. So that's the difference, I'd argue. But yeah, he's just such a Grinch, as they say, Michael. A Grinch. He's like, all of this is stupid. Yeah, I mean, of course. I was actually thinking they could have shown him like making the booby traps. They never actually show that. And again, that's something else they could have done just to maybe allay Roger Ebert's concerns, but
maybe that would have made it feel less realistic. But I mean, to be fair, actually, I think
it couldn't have.
Yeah. I think a lot of the booby traps aren't that sophisticated. Like obviously, there's putting glue. I think the big one would be the blowtorch thing, which even then you can kind of. So I guess to be honest, seeing as the funny thing is actually he says, the booby traps. I guess actually, so the two things here, blowtorch and also the zip wire. But the funny thing is, neither of them are that crazy in a way. Like, I actually don't agree with his $10,000 budget thing. Like, what do you need? A rope and a bicycle handle? And I will say this, they could have had a bit of reincorporation maybe if they would have set up at the beginning that he was into like modeling or something. That would have been like a fun thing, but that's all I can think of. But the thing is, I guess I will say, I don't think it's that crazy. The number of them is crazy, but there's not one specific thing.
Right. Okay. I think I agree with that. So let's talk about and of course, at the end of the movie, he is saved by was he Maloney, something like that, the old man who lives across the street from him. Let's I guess talk about the Christmas aspect of this movie, Michael, because that is one aspect of the movie with Maloney getting his talking to his son because it's Christmas and calling him and getting back together and all of that stuff, and that's good. It makes it wholesome and Christmassy. And without that kind of message, it probably wouldn't be that festive a movie, because of course what we remember the movie for is the hijinks that Macaulay Culkin plays on Joe Pesci and Marv. I can't remember the actor's names. What is it? Stern? Oh fuck. Who cares? But let's just say Harry and Marv. So I'm not disrespecting the actor who played Marv. So Macaulay Culkin playing these pranks on Harry and Marv. That's what we remember, right? But it's not that Christmassy. It's not that wholesome. So you do have this side plot with the old man getting his family back together. And again, at the end of the movie, while it's quite emotional, I guess, when Kevin sees his family once more. And so that's what I was thinking of. Because I kind of jokingly asked you last week, well, is Home Alone a Christmas movie? But it really, the main part of it isn't, because they could have just been gone in the summer, like it didn't have to be at Christmas. But the fact that I guess he's wishing for his family to come back, and that's his Christmas present when they do come back, and he's and of course Christmas, it's about family. That's what makes it so important. I can't remember where that reference is from.
It's from Carrie Fisher.
Yes.
Says about Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah, it is. That's what a staple, a trope of Christmas, if you like. So that makes it into a Christmas movie, I guess, more than. And of course, it's set at Christmas, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a Christmas movie. That's the whole Die Hard thing. But definitely the fact that the family is involved in this movie, or the theme of family. That is, of course, a Christmas trope. So, therefore, it is a Christmas movie. Even though nobody really asked the question, I'm answering it. So, what do you think, Michael?
No, I agree with you. Like, I will also say, actually, the idea of so you mentioned the idea of the family being gone. When the family is all together in that big house, I think that's very Christmassy. I think the idea of having a big house with just the whole family over, that's something you associate with the holidays. And certainly my favourite Christmases from when I'm a kid is when you literally had like all the aunties and uncles and cousins over, and there were so many people that like people had to sleep head to toe and all that sort of stuff, top and tail or whatever it is. So I have a lot of fond memories of these big Christmas get-togethers where it's just the house is really packed to capacity. So the fact the film starts off at that kind of makes it feel a bit Christmassy. And then obviously it's a bit weird that loads of people, apparently like the entire street, is going on holiday for Christmas. I mean, I get it. I guess maybe it's a lot of them are just going away in general, maybe to go be with other members of their family. So I'm kind of okay with that. But I mean, when they've got such big houses, you'd think some of them would be hosting. But yeah, I agree with you that the family aspect is definitely there. Not just the amount of families there at the beginning, but also, of course, the fact he wishes his family back. And then, of course, the fact that you get this extra story with this other guy who is Maloney, who wants his family introduced. And, of course, he then does play a part in the overall plot because he's the big thing that defeats Joe Pesci and Marv in the end.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and that's not really necessary, I think, to the plot of the Christmas thing. But yeah, he does do that. And so, yeah, so this is a Christmas movie then. We can say that for sure. We both agree, which is nice. So now, Michael, I think we need to talk about Macaulay Culkin. Or we'll talk about the actual performance after, but let's talk about the character he plays, Kevin McAllister, first off. So, Kevin McAllister, as I'm sure some people have said before, this is an original point, he is an absolute psychopath. And it's not just for what he does at the end of the movie. Remember when he steals his brother's money? Remember that?
I
just
thought that was
completely destroys his room and just he's like, oh, money. Just no consequences in his head of, oh, this is really bad. I've really pissed him off here. Not like, oh shit, what have I done? Yeah, just takes the money. Then he scares the pizza guy. Remember that? He's just trying to deliver a pizza.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah, although I do like that scene. It's inventive, take the change of...
I mean, he does tell him to keep the change, which is a very nice thing to do, isn't it?
That is a nice thing to do, but then he scares the life out of him,
Yeah.
And of course, the booby traps, the pranks at the end of the movie, he could end it any time by calling the police. Or basically, when he talks to that old man at the church, he could say it then. He decides not to. But
that's the point.
The key thing is, he wants the fight. He doesn't want the cops to handle it. After he shoots them...
He's a good guy with a gun. That's literally what he is.
I'm going to get onto that. Yeah, he doesn't want the cops to handle it, does he? After he shoots them, he yells, yes! Says to them after they slip on his toys at the bottom of the stairs, do you guys give up? Or are you thirsty for more? Do you guys give up? That implies this is just a game to him, doesn't it?
Wow. I have so much respect for him.
He's just like, he wants this. He can't say like, oh, he's doing this to protect the house. No. He actively encourages it. And he wants them to, feel all this pain. Like, he could just call the cops. It could be over. Like we said, he could have just done that, but no. And you watch that, and you're like, and with the knowledge of he could, stop this at basically any time. And it's like, oh my god, this guy, what is wrong with this kid? And
that is weird.
Yeah, and like, they would have, like, the family is right to hate him. It has to be just, because this kid, if he behaves like that, when no one's around, I can imagine him just being absolutely callous towards his siblings.
Maybe though, we don't know who started it. Maybe the reason he's like this is because they hate him. Maybe he used to be a sweet kid, and then after a while, they kept being like, you jerk, and kept giving... Actually, you know what? I do have another complaint about this kid, equally as serious as him trying to inflict his own violent version of vigilante justice. He just likes cheese on pizza. How boring. Have some toppings, you nerd. So that's my personal criticism of him.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm not sure.
But I tell you what, no, I did find it crazy, because I always assumed, and this is why, because I kind of mentioned how, I said, how did he order pizza? Because I thought the phone lines were down, and I said, I'll get back to that. Because I thought, they did mention at one point, I swear they said, the phone lines won't be up for a while because of, and that was with reference to the fact that something got smashed or something. I think it was related to the fact that the power went down. They also said the phone lines went down. Yeah. So, one, they never even established the phone lines were back up. So then when he just casually calls the police, I'm like, oh, so he could just call police. Because I was like, I was thinking the logic of the film was the phone lines are down for the entire time he's there, so he can
go to another house and call the police.
Yeah,
anytime.
And that still doesn't make sense. Yeah,
the burglars give him multiple hours to go and call the police.
Yeah,
which is kind of a nitpick on the burglars. Why wouldn't they be like, oh shit, you know what? Actually, if we go out for a few hours, he may just call the cops. We kind of need to get in there right now. I was
thinking if they were smart, they would have said, "We'll go at 9 p.m." hoping he'd be listening to them, and then they'd come at 7 p.m. That would catch him.
The old switcheroo.
That's what I would do if I was robbing a little kid's house.
Oh god. But yeah, I think what you have to do for the there's a nitpick that he doesn't call the cops and all, and it's also the fact that he's a bit of a psychopath. Now he could end this at any time, but he insists on causing these guys as much pain as possible. The thing is, you've got to have the scene where he's calling the cops and the cops don't believe him. or whatever. Like the cop that knocks on his door and just went is like, oh yeah, you're playing a prank or whatever. Just have him calling the cops not an option. Basically, have the cops basically reject the idea that he's in any danger or that this kid actually is living home alone at this address. I don't know. You could it'd take maybe a bit more than 5 minutes to think about a scenario, but I think that's the best thing for it because I know I'm not a kid, so I know I can't help think about these things when he's like when fucking Marv is stepping on nails. I'm like, come on, man, just call the cops. Why are you doing this? They're not like they're just petty thieves, man. They're not violent criminals, At least we don't know that's the case. So that's my take on Kevin McAllister. So, Michael, let's talk about Macaulay Culkin's performance now, because of course he became incredibly famous after this movie and had a long, successful acting career, well into his adult years, of course. So, how did you find his performance?
Well, ultimately, it's kind of with child performances. There's a part of my brain that just kind of says, especially, see, the thing is, there's some bits where his acting's kind of bad in a charming way. Like when he looks at the camera and goes, I made my family disappear. And he does the thing with his eyebrows. And it's kind of like, that is objectively not good acting, but it's kind of like fun. And, there are examples of that. It's kind of, because long story short, it's not good acting. But short story long, in a way, there's something kind of charming about how he's a bit of a bad actor. I don't know. It's
the fucking thing from what is it, Michael? That movie starring that guy Matthew Broderick from 1986.
Oh, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's it. Yeah. That was also John Hughes, right? That better have been also John Hughes.
No, you're right. Although John Hughes, Hughes, I think directed Ferris Bueller, but he wrote this.
I mean, I'm looking now. He also wrote Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Okay, yeah.
And that is There's another movie about oh my god! There's another movie about a psychopathic kid who lives in an incredibly rich and privileged Chicago suburb.
Did he also do Nightcrawler?
And gets away with everything. Yeah. Oh my god! How did I not connect that before? Of course. Yeah.
Did he do No Country for Old Men? Wouldn't that be funny if just like that was this guy, just John Hughes, and it was like he started off writing kind of happy family children's films or whatever. Like first about psychos, and then he just transitioned to writing like proper like American Psycho and whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly. I mean, Macaulay Culkin, and I mean the way of course when he looks at the camera and does the the eyebrows thing, I was thinking, that's right out of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, what Matthew Broderick does when he talks to the camera, like breaks the fourth wall in a joking way.
They bought it.
Of course, that's John Hughes as well. Yeah, just completely a fucking hack move, Michael. And don't think we didn't notice it, although it took us quite a while to make the connection. We finally did. I'm sure plenty of people have made that connection as well. But no, you're right. It's not really great acting, or it's just cheeky or whatever. But yeah, there are contrasting views on Macaulay Culkin's performance. Roger Ebert praised it, by the way. Roger Ebert thought it was good, and I guess my take on it is the same. It is good. It has to be kind of all right, considering he didn't really mess up, and the lines he delivered, which he had to deliver, were good. He's got a really cute face, of course.
He is adorable. I like his little Jimmy Jammies.
Yeah, still to this day, he's got that face.
Oh, they should do Home Alone, but Macaulay Culkin as an adult.
Yeah, I'm sure people have already
but not changed at all. Yeah. Or what we could do, is if he can do a British accent, which I assume he can because he's such a great actor, Jason Statham and an adult Macaulay Culkin in the British reboot of Home Alone.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
Wonderful. God, yeah. Ali Barkley of the BBC wasn't so high on Culkin, though. They wrote, Culkin walks a fine line between annoyance and endearment throughout the film. He also called Home Alone a film which manages to capture some of the best qualities of Christmas. And so, that's what we said before, kind of. It does capture some good qualities of Christmas, but doesn't really praise Culkin that much. And I don't really think he's annoying. I mean, he's all kids are annoying, really. That's my stance. So he's not more annoying than another kid. So there you have it. And of course, now he's making Red Letter Media videos.
Actually, I've got one thing I want to throw out while we're on the subject of child acting. I find it interesting that Chris Columbus, of course, directed the first two Harry Potter films, also known as the best ones. But there's two things I find funny about that. One, when I was watching this film, especially at the beginning, there was something about the music which is weird because the music is not by the same guy who did the Harry Potter music. But like the way the film's kind of starting with like a little kid being hated by the rest of his family, that made me think, it's kind of funny this guy directed The Philosopher's Stone, which kind of, obviously I think Harry was more hard done by it than Macaulay Culkin and a bit more sympathetic. But also, of course, lots of people didn't like the child acting in the early Harry Potter films. And I've always thought, you know what, it's fine.
Yeah.
They don't have to be good at acting because they're children, and I love children as friends.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Actually, I forgot to mention this. Buzz, his older brother, he has this weird rivalry with a kid who's literally half his age. He's always like saying Kevin's a moron. Like, imagine you did that to your brother who's like 8 years younger than you. Oh, this fucking kid.
Most people are like protective of their little brother. It would make more sense if he was the middle kid, because obviously the stereotype is that the middle kid is the one that gets kind of neglected and forgotten. But instead, he's the youngest kid, and usually the youngest kid is the one that gets spoiled the most.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought as well. Yeah, he's
speaking as a younger child myself.
Yeah, normally it's the middle kid that gets bullied, but he's not. He's the youngest kid, so that's weird. But yeah, I do find it weird that his older brother really hates him. Like, why? Why would his older brother hate him so much? But he's right though. He does need to be taught a lesson. But I do think it's kind of funny that his older brother Buzz, he's talking about Kevin needing to live in the real world while he's literally eating shrimp on a holiday in Paris. At Christmas in a hotel that overlooks the Eiffel Tower. Maybe John Hughes thinks that's the real world. I don't know. Anyway, so Michael, let's get on to my favourite topic of this review so far, which is the politics of Home Alone. The politics, because there's always politics in a movie, right? Even this one. This movie is a very right-wing movie, Michael, like all John Hughes movies. And at the heart
because it's about Christmas.
Yeah, because it's about Christmas. And of course, us leftists want to get rid of Christmas. So yeah, that's immediately we're pissed off right from the get-go. But no, this movie, of course, features Kevin protecting his own house, being a vigilante, using his Second Amendment rights. And I genuinely think that maybe this movie made... I'm not going to bother to look it up, but what if this movie, because, it's about burglars burglaring a house... at Christmas.
Crime Bill
in 94. I kind of mentioned that jokingly last week, but what if Americans they bought like more locks and stuff for their houses after this movie came out? Suburban Americans who went to the cinema to watch this and were like, well, it's correct. Around Christmas burglaries, they do increase. That is a fact. So I do wonder if this movie, perhaps not in the, it couldn't have done it in a massive sense, but did increase like people's perceptions of, I need more security around my house. I don't know. Do you think I'm off here, Michael? Do you think I'm?
I think it did the opposite. People thought, I don't need to worry about security. I'll just get my little kid to handle
it.
Yeah. So it's like, well, I shouldn't leave the doors locked, but I should make sure I leave my kid here unattended in case some burglars show up. That's funny to me.
Yeah, no, it's funny
because that's bad logic.
That exactly. That's why it works. Okay, so one last bit, Michael, before we conclude. One last bit. I don't know. I find this concept hilarious. I don't know. I can't remember where I thought of it, but okay. Imagine it's 1990, and John Hughes is walking into the Warner Brothers to give them the script of the movie, and he's the executive. He's reading it, and then he realizes the two robbers, they're not called Harry and Marv. That they're
what are they called? Tyrone and Jamal.
Yeah. The robbers in Home Alone were two black guys, and I was called Dwayne and Deshaun.
Yeah, because when I was thinking about like the British version, I was thinking about like British guys who kind of have a reputation for violence. My first thought was Idris Elba, and I was like, can't say that.
It's Idris, you fucking posh cunt.
Idris Elba.
It's Idris.
Is it? No, that's weird.
It's definitely Idris. Yeah.
I know, yeah, actually, now I think about it, yeah, you are right, Idris Elba.
No,
but I'm going to pronounce it that way anyway.
I don't know, it could be a good skit, like...
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it would be funny. When we start our comedy sketch channel, it's coming someday.
We noticed that the two, Dwayne and Deshaun, and they talk they use a lot of African-American vernacular. Now... Would it be too far for me to say that these two gentlemen are both black in this movie?
Shit, why you gotta say that?
Shit, this kid's really fucking me up, Dwayne. Just the most racist movie ever. It's gone from a heartwarming Christmas movie to an incredibly racist movie. I'd love. Oh god, so somebody should remake that. Remake Home Alone, but the two black guys are the two robbers are black guys. Just that's Is that a funny concept, Michael? I think it's a funny concept.
No, it is quite funny. I do like it. Well done.
Great, wonderful. So yeah, shall we conclude now, Michael? You go first.
Yeah, let's do this. So the thing about this film is it's a Christmas film, which makes it good. Because all Christmas films are good. Because Christmas is fun, and I love Christmas. And that's kind of the thing. Like, one of the things you always want to talk about these kind of films when you're reviewing them is how rewatchable is it? And in this case, it's kind of, it is rewatchable insofar as you're only ever going to watch it at Christmas time. And that means, obviously, unless you're watching it every single Christmas, it means at least 2 years are going to have passed since you last watched it. And to be honest, I'd say, given how short it is, it's a film that realistically, you can always watch it with your family. And that is so important, because traditional family values are, so scant in this society we live in. So having a film like this, which you can just throw on and enjoy it with your family, is so valuable. And the other thing is, it is kind of quite well put together. And obviously, we've spoken about some of the slight issues with how the film is presented and some of kind of, I guess, the developments in the plot and how it's structured. And obviously, we've criticized the morality of old Macaulay Culkin. But it's a fun, well put together film. I'm not going to go mental with it. I was thinking like, I could give this film a 7, a low 7, especially with the Christmas bump up. But I'm just like, you know what? No, I will do it. I will put it above Jumanji and... No, actually, I'm going to put it below Jumanji. No, I'm going to put it above Jumanji and below Men in Black. So that is a very low 7, and part of that is from the Christmas bump up, because, it's a Christmas film, makes me happy. So yeah, I'll say low 7.
Yeah. Overall, again, I think the concept is nice. The movie could have been executed better, like I said. And yeah, there were some quite big nitpicks, like obviously the mannequins that we didn't point out, but we got to, and the fact that he doesn't call the police, which is more than a nitpick, it's quite a big issue. And yeah, this kid turns out to be quite a psycho, essentially. That's how else can you describe him? A person who enjoys torturing people when, the torture can stop instantly if he just calls the police. So yeah, overall, Michael, I'm gonna put this movie down as a 6.5, I think. 6.5, and maybe a bit harsh for like a Christmas classic, but it's still above average, I guess. And yeah, like it's good enough. Basically, it's good enough. It's on the it's on the same level as, I guess, or just below Halloween. You think of Halloween, a prototypical Halloween movie. Obviously, that makes sense. And yeah, I gave Halloween a 7 out of 10. There's a 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, it's around the same thing. It's like it's good enough. It gets the job done, essentially, even though they're both classics. But yeah, so that's it. Now, Michael, let's talk about Wonder Woman, shall we?
Because, yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the decider, and I don't know what the situation is with it.
Well, the decider is that, of course, throughout the year, COVID has disrupted this quite significantly, but we have been guessing what movie scores are going to get on Rotten Tomatoes. Say we guess 80, and if it's 85, well, we add 5 points onto our total. And basically, whoever has the most points at the end of the year loses, because they've been the furthest off the actual Rotten Tomatoes scores. And yeah, so we have got to the situation where Wonder Woman will decide it all. You, so far, have accumulated 59 points. I have accumulated 61 points, which means I need to gain 3 points on you to win, or 2 to draw. So, you guessed that Wonder Woman would get an 88% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Wonder Woman 1984, this is, of course. And I guessed it would get 86. Now, of course, I need, it to get 86 to tie or less, and you need, 88 or more to increase your lead, or if it's 87, the gap stays at exactly 2 again. So, Michael, this is it. This is the deciding one. Because last year we did the Rotten Tomato scores where whoever got closest just got a point, which didn't really measure because we could both be wildly off. This is a better measurement, I think. And of course, we guessed extremely close last week, and 88 to 86. So here we go. The Rotten Tomato score for Wonder Woman 1984 is 87. Right in between our two guesses. See, the funny thing is, I think initially, didn't you guess 87? I did guess 87, yes.
But the thing is, obviously, even then, you still would have, so you would have just been...
I would have just gained 1 point in you, so I had to go to 86 to...
in order to have a chance.
Yeah, in order to have a chance of beating you. So yeah, at the end of the day, You end up on 60, I end up on 62. Incredible how good we are at predicting Rotten Tomato scores for movies.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah,
Or initially
considering it was a whole year worth of films.
I mean, a whole year. We did like 5.
I know.
Because, yeah, not a lot of movies released this year. So well done, Michael. You take the crown this year by 2 points.
Wow.
And it
I
would have been
never
a single
predict
point.
anything right.
Yeah, I would have been a single point if I had stuck to my guns last week. But,
Obviously, yeah.
if ifs and buts and all that. So, that's Wonder Woman, and that's Home Alone as well. And that's, our Rotten Tomato score for this year. What are we doing next week, Michael?
Well, next week we are looking at another Christmas film. It's called An Ounce of Courage.
It's actually not called that. It's called
The Last Ounce of Courage,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't reading it because I remembered, but I remembered the name wrong. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to it, Luke. I've got to tell you that.
Very disrespectful. So thank you for listening. We've been selecting and reflecting on Home Alone. Join us next week for Last Ounce of Courage. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Goodbye.
Goodbye.